In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 things that I wish I would have known before starting to sell Pokemon cards, and that I've learned the hard way through trial and error. I want you guys to go further and faster if you guys want to do something like this. So let's get into it. Number 1, the first thing that I wish I would have known, and has taken me a bit to really understand, is the pricing. And by the way, I'm speaking if you're a level 4 seller on tcgplayer. There are different tiers, but you want to get to that level 4 tier, and you even want to get to tcgplayer direct or being a pro seller. And the first thing, my first advice to you is pricing. Pricing was such a hard thing for me of what to list the price of your cards. And if you're a level 4 seller and you're a tcgplayer direct, there's a mass pricing tool that allows you to change the price of 20,000, 40,000, your whole inventory, all those cards all in one sweep, which is a lifesaver, obviously, because you're not going to go over there. That would be crazy if you had to change each individual price of every card. So I would say pricing is a really big thing to consider. What are you going to list your price of your cards? And it really depends on a couple things. It depends, honestly, on how much you buy the cards for. If you're like me and buy the cards next to nothing, I recently got a lot that's every card, 10,000 cards were quarter of a penny, right? So if you buy it next to nothing, then obviously you can sell it for 5 pennies and make money out of it. Now there's shipping as well, which we'll cover that in a bit. But pricing depends on what you buy it for, and I think as well as to how big your inventory is. Now, that's kind of something that is not really written anywhere. It's not a rule that's written anywhere, but I've noticed that the higher players, the more cards you have, the more, especially in my case, sometimes I would have 10,000. Now I have 20,000. The more cards you have, the higher you can price your cards, right? And they will sell because you have other cards that people want. So it's more of a convenience factor instead of having to go through multiple vendors. If you have all the cards that they need, they're willing to pay that little bit higher price. Now, another thing as well is business model another thing to consider is, what are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing, okay, I don't want to lose on any card, so I'm going to price it so that I can't lose on any card? And if you don't know what I'm talking about by losing on a card, you can lose on shipping with specific amount of cards. So, which is kind of rare, but it does happen. I lose on some orders, and I know it as I fill the order. But in my model, in my personal opinion, I think volume is better, because if you have 20, 30, 40,000 cards, it doesn't do you any good if they're not selling. So I try to price as low as I can, tcgplayer direct with a set limit. Pricing is really important to try to understand before you really take this seriously. You don't want to lose out on your inventory. So that's number 1, kind of long-winded. There's a bunch of different factors, and I try to explain each individual factor, how they would change things. But number 2, would have to be inventory in general and lots. Because if you sell Pokemon cards, you need to have a steady supply of buying them, right? So that you can sell them. So lots is what I personally believe separates the good sellers from the bad sellers. If you just buy commons and you're one person, it's not going to be worth it for you, really, because there's not a lot of margins, right, in commons. What I recommend and what I found out is that 70 to 80% of my inventory, let's say 20,000 cards, and I ship out like 700 cards, I'm seeing that 70 to 80% of those cards are reverses and up, holos, even light played, right? Light played reverses will sell, which is kind of crazy. Holos too, even moderately played. So number 2 is inventory. I would say have a diverse inventory, vintage, modern, everything in between. That will attract diverse customer base. All right. And then the last thing, number 3, is that if you're going to take this seriously, have some tools. So this right here is a label printer. This is a lifesaver, and tools like these are lifesavers, because if I didn't have a label printer, sometimes I'm sending like 30 orders that I have to ship out, right? And most of them are envelopes. If you didn't have a label printer, you would have to write at least your return address, because if you buy windowed envelopes, you can fold them so that you don't have to do the shipping to part. You could just fold the order slip, but the return, you're gonna have to be writing your, I mean, obviously you can do stamps as well. There's other mediums, but take it seriously, because everything matters. If you have 20, 30 orders, you're gonna be there all day writing your address, right? Obviously, if you have more orders, it's gonna take you longer. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. And maybe if you didn't, you found this entertaining. That's my video for today. I know it's a little bit more of explaining, but hopefully I've added some footage, different lots that I've bought that have been really good deals. All right, I hope to see you in the next one. Later.